Am I the a-hole if I tell my mom that my dad asked if I could be a surrogate for him and his new wife? My 26 female dad, 56 male, has been trying to have a child with his new wife, 40 female, for going on 2 years. They are attempting IVF but aren't having luck. They told me this in confidence and asked if I could keep the fact that they are trying for a baby to myself, which I have done. No problem. Recently, my dad called saying he had something he had been planning to ask me for a while. He asked if things with IVF don't work out, if I would be willing to be a possible surrogate, with donor DNA for both of them. I was shocked, and to be honest, slightly disgusted by the idea. For some background, my father and I don't have the best relationship. My parents are divorced, and he was an alcoholic up until I went to college. We went 3 years without speaking to each other because of an argument. We only started speaking again 3 years ago. All of this makes the fact that he asks so shocking. When he asked, I gave an awkward chuckle, told him, I don't even know if I ever want to physically have a child myself. And if I do, I would probably use surrogacy myself if I could, you know? He was audibly disappointed when he responded with, no, I don't know. There was an awkward pause and I said, yeah, well, sorry, but I love you. And we hung up. I was so shocked I thought I had entered a twilight zone and started to feel nauseous. I was going to keep this to myself, but I don't think I can. I want to tell my mom, 60 female. We have a very close relationship and constantly tell each other everything. Even if this is the end of that conversation, the fact that my dad felt comfortable asking me is weirding me out. I'm slightly concerned she might attempt to off him. I would like her to put the fear of God into him so he never considers even thinking of me and surrogacy in the same sentence ever again. My dad is a selfish person. I know he didn't consider the ramifications of what being pregnant and having a child would have on me at all, even if I would not be involved with raising it. I know part of me why he asked is because he was hoping to save the money a surrogacy agency will cost. It's grossing me out that he had to have thought about me being pregnant. It's just grossing me out, and I'd like to talk to my mom about the situation. Am I the a-hole if I talked to her about this after they asked me to keep the fact they are trying to have a child a secret? It would obviously give away the fact that they are trying for a child and she would 100% yell at him, which would give away the fact that I told her. She wouldn't spread it to other people though, and I do feel like he crossed a line asking this question. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I'm usually the camp of don't spill secrets, but this is a huge ask. And if you need to confide in your mom, confide in her. It's something that majorly affects you. If it eases your mind, you wouldn't even qualify to be a surrogate. No legit fertility place will allow you to be impregnated, so his attempt to get around other fees would fail. Even the places with the loosest restrictions wouldn't accept a surrogate that has never carried at least one pregnancy to term. It's the most major of requirements. I am too when it comes to secrets, which is why I'm having a difficult time of it. But yeah, the fact that he even asked is majorly affecting me. That does ease my mind. I didn't know that at all. Clearly his time spent thinking about asking me was not spent wisely enough. Thank you for letting me know. Your dad would not have been approved to use you as a surrogate. That is how inappropriate his ask is. It is so inappropriate that I question whether he wants a child. He is sabotaging the process by choosing such an inappropriate path. It is so inappropriate that you must tell your mom or someone, anyone, so that your loved ones can help you heal from the damage your father is doing to your ideal of love and relationships. This is horrifying. Not only is that request just creepy and, I don't even know, I truly can't find the right words. Abhorrent? You need to previously have carried a child to qualify to be a surrogate anyway. So he has clearly not thought this through or talked to a medical professional about surrogacy in general. And anyone negatively responding to the part where she wants to tell her mom, the heck? She was just requested to birth her own sibling. You think her mother wouldn't put obvious pieces together when the child would be given to her father? Jeez. Not stay home. I shuddered. Actually shuddered. You would not be the a-hole if you told your mom as it's about you, not them. Can you imagine telling people you're carrying your dad's baby? Right? How would I explain that to literally anybody? You couldn't explain it without hearing banjos playing. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my former mother-in-law to leave my house? I married my late husband Benji in 2008 and we had a daughter together, now 12. In 2020, when she was 9, he unfortunately passed away. I remarried in 2021 and, to be honest, I'm much happier. My marriage with Benji was actually very rocky, though of course his extended family and my daughter do not know this. We are of course still in touch with Benji's family, particularly my former mother-in-law. Ex-mother-in-law attended my wedding and professed to be happy, but she's always been a bit concerned about preserving her son's memory. For example, she made an impromptu speech at my wedding saying that this was what Benji would have wanted for me and my daughter. Benji was an only child, and my daughter is her only grandchild, so I do understand. And she's not really a bad person, just grieving in my opinion. After Benji's death, she wanted to share more of Benji with my daughter, and my daughter was happy to hear stories and see photos. I found it helpful for her to have that anchor and encouraged it. I myself was not that close to ex-mother-in-law even in Benji's lifetime, so we only spoke sporadically. But the further I've gotten into this relationship, the more strained things have become. Months ago, I invited ex-mother-in-law to stay with us for a few days. But in hindsight, her relationship with my daughter was already shifting, and it shifted much more in the interim. My daughter is definitely pulling away. I think it's a combination of settling in here, feeling increasingly distant from her old life, growing closer to her stepdad, and just becoming a teenager. I also think it's more about her evolving relationship with her father/grief than about ex-mother-in-law herself. Maybe she's also picked up on how much happier I am, but I sort of hope not. But ex-mother-in-law came to visit as planned. It's not gone well. She made a few subtle comments indicating she thinks I'm alienating my daughter from her biological paternal family. Which, to be fair, I did move her across the country and I do encourage her relationship with her new stepdad, but I'm also not trying to erase her dad. On the second day, my daughter said something to her grandmother like, "My parents said I could." She was using it more as a shorthand, but ex-mother-in-law snapped, "He's not your parent," and my daughter was embarrassed. I took her aside and called her out on thinking I was alienating my daughter, and reminded her she was my daughter, and also she was making her own choices. My ex-mother-in-law said my daughter was playing right into my hands, and then suggested that my significant other's closeness with my daughter was somehow suspicious. I flipped out and told her to leave my house. She stomped out, and I just know she's telling the rest of Benji's extended family how terrible and cruel I am. My daughter seemed ambivalent, but my husband thinks I was overly harsh and I should have understood that she was grieving. I feel like it's very hard for me to be unbiased, but I must admit that part of my reason for being upset at my former mother-in-law is because I want her to be happy here and have a good relationship with her stepdad. I mourn Benji too, don't get me wrong, but feel very differently about him to how my daughter feels. If it wasn't for her, I'd make very little effort to keep his memory alive or be in touch with his family at all. Not stay home. You have been very gracious about her need to keep her son's memory alive, but she's crossed a line by trying to prevent your newly blended family from moving forward, trying to prevent your daughter from seeing her stepdad as part of her family, trying to force your now pubescent daughter to stay 9 years old. She wasn't going to be interested in photo albums and repeated stories forever. And finally, suggesting, with no foundation, that your husband's affection for your daughter is somewhat unwholesome. You did the right thing. Yes, honestly, she crossed the line with that insinuation. I get that she's grieving, but that's just unacceptable. Not stay home. This is a pretty clear case of your ex-mother-in-law dismissing your parenting and disrespecting you. It's fine for her to disagree, but ultimately this is your child and not hers, and it sounds like she refused to accept that. Furthermore, the grief is her problem. You can and should be sensitive to a point, but enough is enough. Is enough. Not stay home. She was totally out of line. For me, the "he's not your parent" line was a full-on deal breaker. If I were in your shoes, I absolutely would have clearly and without room for misinterpretation explained to her that if she ever said anything like that to my daughter again, that would be the last time she ever saw her. Sounds to me like you reacted rather tamely and with more poise, and understanding that was necessary. Grief is not an excuse to be an absolute a-hole like your former mother-in-law was. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for asking my dad and stepmom what kind of sick joke they are trying to play on me? My mom died, so now I am stuck at my dad's and stepmom's that have siblings all the time. My one request was that they did not make me leave my hometown so that I could be by her grave. I had several relatives offer my dad to let me stay at theirs in my town and then go to his town every other weekend like usual. That way, I could be close to mom, and commute to school would be shorter. He said no, and his wife, who has no parenting rights to me, decided she had a say, and they both forced me to go live there forever. I have been keeping myself busy with school, tennis, and friends to avoid being at my dad's, and to keep myself busy in order to not think about my mom all the time. I have no desire or want to be around their perfect family with no dead main characters, nor do I want to be around people who didn't love my mom or care that she's dead. It was her birthday Sunday, and I had plans to stay in bed. But my dad and stepmom decided to be disrespectful and try and celebrate her birthday with me, and tried to go to her grave with me. I was furious at them both, and asked them what kind of sick joke they were trying to play on me. I told my dad to stop acting like he gave the slightest crap about my mom when he divorced her. I asked my stepmom what rights she thinks she has to my mom, and asked if she wants to go piss on my mom's grave to show that she is a winner or something. My dad yelled at me because my stepmom cried. So I wanted to know if I was actually an a-hole, or if it was my dad putting my last again. Edit. I'm going to ask my dad and stepmom a list of 30 questions I have made that my mom and her extended family and my friends know about me. If they can answer, I will be convinced that they do know me and do care about me, and then will believe that they didn't act in order to mock and spite my mom. If they can't answer, it's proof that they don't know me and then don't care about me. If they don't care and love me, how can they possibly respect my mother? If it's the former, I will try harder to work with them. If not, I'll look out for myself. Now for the comments. I kinda need some more information because it seems to me they are trying to support you in your grief and not meant to mock you. Then yeah, you might be an a-hole, albeit an understandable one. Maybe they want you to join their family and help you with the pain of your mom's loss. She has only been dead for 2 months. I already told them that they have nothing to do with my mom because it's not like they did when she was alive. So them doing this was completely against my wishes, and I was blindsided because they know this. You would probably benefit from grief counseling followed by family counseling when you are mentally and emotionally ready. I'm sorry for your loss, OP. I think currently no one is an a-hole, but this is a situation that requires individual therapy, communication, and mutual respect. Opie needs to recognize that although they are messing up a lot, the dad and stepmom are trying to help and support Opie in their grief. The dad and stepmom need to give Opie a little space and let Opie tell or show them what support they actually want. Opie needs therapy to help them process their grief in a healthy way, since it feels like Opie's lashing out at the dad and stepmom for having what Opie wishes they still had. No a-holes here. You sound very young while they're just trying to be there for you. You are also hurting. Please consider therapy. While they are just trying to be there for you. Honestly, Opie doesn't paint it like that at all. Opie sounds like 15 to me, at which point they definitely should have been able to stay with relatives in their hometown and keep up the custody schedule. Remember, you were reading this from the Opie's point of view. It's very clear that these adults are trying to support the grieving child and are making sure they provide a stable home while also giving him access to his mother's grave. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for going radio silent on my family after I was told I'm in the wrong for going off on my sister? So, I'm 27 female, I'm married 29 male, and in February, my sister 34 female dropped her 2 kids, 10 female and 6 male, to go on a last-minute out-of-state trip. When the 10-year-old was getting ready for her shower, she asked if I could check her hair. Confused, I asked why would I be doing that, but also told her, yes, I'll check it. My niece tells me she had head lice and has had it for a while. I'm shocked, after not being told any of this. I check her hair and sure enough, there's not only eggs but moving head lice. I asked her what her mom had been using to get rid of it, and my niece says mayo and vinegar. I'm baffled, so I call my sister again. After I've already called about them not having clothes packed, they had random clothes packed in their suitcases. And she goes, "Oops, it must have slipped my mind." How does head lie slip your mind? Well, I went off on her, called her an irresponsible mother for not putting her kids first. So we haven't spoken much since February. Well, I've texted her a couple times trying to break the ice so things won't be so awkward. I love having my nieces and nephew over and spoiling them. Well, my oldest niece was over this weekend. She lives with my mom and dad, and I didn't have the gas to drive her home last night. My mom sent my sister's husband, who is an abusive POS, but that's a story for another time, to pick up my oldest niece, 12 female. My other niece came over, so excited to see us, and informed us that her and her brother are never allowed over to my house again. He begged me to talk to her mom about it. I called my mother and sister and finally asked what was going on. My mother said she wasn't pleased with how I handled things with my sister, and I was wrong for going off on her. My sister told me she is salty and done discussing her kids with me, and she hung up. I informed my mother I'm going radio silent and won't be speaking to any of them for a while because my feelings are valid. I might be the a-hole because I tried to tell my sister how irresponsible she was being with her kids. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I'd be furious. It's not just treating everyone's hair. It's boil washing the sheets, pillowcases, towels, etc., and continuing to check everyone's hair. I have very thick and curly hair, and it took me 2 months to get rid of them. I got it in high school. I had medium length, thick, straight hair, and it took the better part of 4 months to be completely rid of them. This was multiple treatments. Washing the sheets, deep cleaning everything. They are nasty and tenacious. Those poor kids. Mom definitely isn't/wasn't doing enough, especially considering she was throwing live ones on a carpet. Male 28 here. If my sister dropped my niece off at my house and I made such a discovery, all hell would break loose. Oops, must have slipped my mind. Ah yes, because I was born yesterday and I believe in Santa and the Easter Bunny. Give me a break. Not stay home because you were nicer than I would have been by mile. I'm 30 female and I am with you 100%. When I was a kid, I kept getting head lice over and over one summer. I think my cousin must have been bringing it in. Not to be dramatic, but I've been traumatized. Like once when I was living with my in-laws, my niece had scabies and her mom was/is a POS as is, and didn't get it treated for a month. I even tried to put hydrocortisone on it because she was itching so badly and I had no idea what it actually was. My mother-in-law and father-in-law had it bad because she slept in the bed with them. I had let her use my brush once though, and I had it in my scalp. I had a freaking panic attack. But yeah, needless to say, I would have slapped off had I been OP, especially since I have a little girl myself with a very long hair. No OP, you're not a-hole at all. Your sister and mom are though.